Now, the rest of the story.
Well, I don't have a whole lot to talk about, but I can talk a little. And I'll actually turn the camera back on once I get going. But I'm down at the valley, obviously. It's a couple days after Dad and I were down here streaming on the nitrogen. The valley looks pretty good. The moisture, the rain chances, where we were essentially looking at a week of rain, has been dwindled down to about a chance of about 4 hours of scattered showers, which is in about 2 hours. But yet there's blue sky to the west. Just kind of, but I've always told myself that if I had the chance to come down and make this stuff, I would. I'm feeling about 90% confident I can go through and this low spot here, get that cleaned up. I actually might clean up a little bit on the upper end right there between the upper and lower bottom. And then there's this guy. What I'm going to do is actually go to the center of the field, and I'm actually going to do the hydro swing trick, and I'm actually going to work from the outside then work towards the hillside, because I'm still very much aware there was a spring right along the hillside here. What was about 100 feet past this tree branch hanging out. But the thing is, for thinking that we were actually sitting pretty good after the rain we had, kind of leaning more and more back to drought stress and feed availability. And it's just one of those situations we're looking at where if I can get 10, 15 bales, I mean, any more, I'll take it. I mean, this stuff is as tall as it should have been when I cut it the first time, when this stuff wasn't even that tall. So yes, I'm glad I went through and cut this, even though it was shorter, to get the regrowth coming back. And I'm hoping in another month this will be worth something. This will be about 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks behind the regrowth here, but as long as it's not flooded out or anything, which is what happened to me last year, I'll end up cutting the rest of this for second cut. And I'm really leaning towards, if I can't do the rest of the farm over there, I'll at least come down and I'll do the foliar and the streaming, the nitrogen on, at least on the valley, on the bottom. So especially if it's dry enough I can hit everything, I actually might put the monitor into the gator and actually run boundaries down here. That's actually kind of tempting, because I'd like to have an accurate map down here so my guidance for the sprayer would work the way it should. Because the last time I actually ran a boundary around here, there was a lot of water down here, and I wasn't brave enough to risk getting the gator stuck to run around and check everything. So with everything that's right here, even though they're calling for a chance of rain this afternoon, I'm going to windrow it to get the ground exposed, so hopefully it'll dry out in the next couple days, because they're calling for sunshine and dry weather. I'm going to tet it out either tomorrow or the next day, and then come down and bale it. Am I worried about trying to get, auction grade quality? No. As of right now, this stuff is actually going to be the next stuff I'm going to feed out to my cows. So I'm going to make it and haul it right back up to the feedlot at home, and I won't pull any more hay out of the shed down here until I have to again. And hopefully we'll have second cut coming up, and I'm looking at making 2 cuttings off of this right here. I mean, that is my goal. I haven't sprayed my foliar yet on this. My intentions are to get this made so I can actually go through and spray my foliar on it. My issues with the bottom down here is I am a very, very firm believer in, for how much I've actually reclaimed down here, like up on the upper bottom, there's about 1/3 of the upper bottom that wasn't being made when I took it over, and I've reclaimed an awful lot of that, and hoping for a second or third cut off of this. I need to get this taken off, because if the rain returns, which is what happened to me last year, it was dry enough where I was in this exact situation right now. I could have made this, but then we started getting rain. Well, then it ponded in the low spots right through here, and it just never, it kept this saturated, where I actually had to come down with the rotary mower and just grind it up, because there's nothing else I could do with it. I couldn't get in to cut it to make it for feed. So presented with a similar situation, I'm going to go ahead and cut it. So I'll get you guys caught up here once we get going. I'm gonna go ahead and say, I don't really feel like it's too early to say this, but maybe 10 to 15 bales is figuring kind of light for what's here. These windrows are pretty impressive. I haven't had windrows like this in probably 4 years. So a lot of that's a combination of the fact that it just doesn't get made very often, and well, looking across here, this stuff is level with the fenders of the tractor. Granted, it's not all the Reed Canary. If it was all this, that'd be great. But I'm probably going to cherry pick some of the bales as I'm feeding them out, which will be going into the bale feeder and what will be just laid out for the cows to kind of kick around and make into manure. Because it's like this stuff, I really don't expect them to want to do anything with it. But if they lay on it, chew through it a little bit, and use it as a bathroom, I'm fine with that. Let it break down and we'll haul it back out in the field. I don't make it, it's 100% wasted. And on a year like this year, I don't want to scream drought, 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 but I do want to at least make sure that we're protecting ourselves, that we don't get low on feed. And not making this now eliminates any chances to really get much of, if any, quality off of it for second and third cut. But this is, well, actually looks kind of neat when you look at it like that. But I got quite a few passes to make yet. I'm only going in second right now. I was down to first for the most part on this pass. I had to open up the conditioner all the way because I had it turned down, I'd say maybe 2/3 of the way, just to make sure. I am actually going to drop down to first, just to make sure that on the first cutting everything was so light. I was just making sure that it was at least doing a decent job of conditioning what was going through it. This stuff is so heavy. You can actually see right here, I plugged it going back that way. Ultimately, I'm driving all the way down to the other end and I'm heading back this way. I gave up on the hydroswing part of it, largely just because I'm right-hand dominant. It's easier to look over my right shoulder. All of my controls are right here. And just in case we get into a panic situation, I can just start grabbing levers and the steering wheel and all that. So I'm really not looking to get stuck down here. It's soft but not muddy, if that makes sense to anybody. I'm not trying to take completely full passes, but what windrowing this is going to do, especially on this thick stuff, I'm glad I'm windrowing it just to make sure that that ground is given, I'd say 24 hours at the very least. I mean, it'll be tomorrow afternoon before I come out and ted this. I'm almost wondering if I won't do it the next day. Ted it out, thin it out the best I can, and then tedding it also does kind of mix in some of this stuff. And I think we'll be sitting all right. Let me catch up with you. I just got done, and that is where the spring is. I'm gonna go with a spring versus, like a swamp area, versus just the simple fact that I was able to go along the hillside and make about 2.5 passes. The other half of, I guess, that third pass, I sunk the tires in on the mower pretty well up to the rim. So that's gonna be an area to stay away from, but more or less, for how much is here, granted it's not Reed Canary across 100% of it, it's got that more swamp grass, and it'll at least be usable. I can do something with it. If I leave it down here standing, I get completely no use out of it. So at least this way, even if we get a bunch of rain, which we were supposed to have rain for the last 3 hours now, and it got dark for a little bit, but it cleared off. if we do get a bunch of rain, the regrowth isn't going to be so heavy that it'll keep the ground from being able to dry out, because this is actually drier than I thought it would be going across here, and I'm at least grateful that it was pretty well what I expected it as far as what I could cut and where I could and couldn't go. The first low spot that I did on about the 5th or 6th pass, I was able to drive through that for the most part. I cut in probably about the depth of the treads in the tractor, but once again, getting it cut off and letting the sun, the air get to it, I think we'll be looking all right on any potential regrowth. I mean, I know this other grass, I'm not even sure what the heck it is. I'm going with swamp grass. I'm gonna have a bunch of regrowth from that, no big deal, whatever, because being able to take off 100% of this lower bottom again, or 99% of the lower bottom on my future cutting or cuttings, whatever it ends up being, is worth it. I mean, I can at least cherry pick out any of the bales that have that in it, and that'll just be my feed for sure. So that's where this stuff is headed. I'm gonna probably come down, ted it tomorrow, probably ted it the next day. Even if we do get rain on it, with it being tedded out, I mean, as long as it's not a lot, which they're not really calling for much rain now, but I may try to leave this stuff laid longer than what I would typically would. I mean, make it 2 days, 3 days from now. I mean, tomorrow, the next day, and then the day after that is when I would typically try to bale it. Today is Wednesday. I may almost let this stuff lay till Monday. They're calling for 70s and sunny tomorrow, which would be good drying, and then chances of rain like on Saturday, but a little shower, even being tedded out, I don't think is really going to hurt it. And more or less that thicker grass, it's more of a stalk than anything. It doesn't really have any leaves. That stuff's dripping with water. Like if you crack it, it's got water in it. So leave it lay, space the bales out apart, and do something with them. Everything's gonna go back home. That's gonna be off of this, but I'm really confident in saying that what is here, I mean, I did go cut that low spot up there. This is about a quarter of what I just cut, is about a quarter of the lower bottom. I mean, there's a fair amount of area here. It took me 3 hours to cut this when I honestly thought it was gonna be like an hour and a half, 2 hours. But I didn't get over 3 miles an hour cutting this. This stuff cut hard, but the plus side is it should have really did a good job cleaning out the inside of the mower for any dirt that was left over from Ryan cutting the pasture. So that's good. The mower I'm gonna take back, grease it, change the blades, because I know the blades are pretty well shook now at this point, just because how many acres we've cut with it. I was gonna go cut 5 acres of alfalfa, but I may yet, I guess. I mean, even if it does get rained on, it's for cow feed, it's for myself. But I don't know, I think this is a pretty big accomplishment, just getting this cut like we did, because it's July 5th. We got plenty of growing season. We'll at least get one more cutting off of it, and I mean, ideally we get 2 cuttings off of everything down here, and this will be hit with that foliar application when I'm down here at the 79. So I don't know, I thought you guys would at least like to see how this ended up. For how heavy and thick this material is, I was thinking maybe 15-20 bales at the most before I cut it, but as of right now, I'd say with a wide brush, I'd say 30 to 50 bales, and I think 30 is well within reason, and it wouldn't surprise me. I'm not saying I'm expecting it. It really wouldn't surprise me if we got closer to 50 bales. So I'll be able to at least do something with them. The big thing is just trying to get them dry. I was going to use the 82 and the 569 to bale this, but I'm probably going to end up raking it with the New Holland rake singly, and then come down with the 7600 and the 566, because I'm probably going to put a little bit of preservative on it just to give it some hope of being able to keep. So that's all we got for this, guys. I mean, thanks for watching if you made it this far, but hay might be a pretty valuable crop this year. I mean, the rain, we're heading back into another dry stretch. I mean, the next 10 days, as of yesterday at 8 a.m., they were calling for rain. Well, now we're back to that chance of rain for right now. That, I mean, what, we had about 4 hours worth of a chance of rain, and there's really no rain in the forecast. There's a 20% chance on Saturday, but as far as the row crops go, you're not going to make a crop off of 1/10 of an inch of rain or 2/10 of an inch of rain once every 2 weeks, and that's what it feels like right now. Well, that's why you're not seeing me talk about the row crops too much, because some of them look great, some of them look all right. I was told that planting date and no-till were the big game deciders this year. And I got some corn that doesn't look that great. I got some beans that don't look that great. No-till is usually a winner, I guess, and this year they say no-till was kind of a bummer. Oh well. But stay tuned for however this ends up. I'll probably, I don't know if I'll talk to you tedding and everything, but this is probably going to be 100% me as far as getting this made. Ryan's busy. May have Dad down here. Depends if I make it. Depends when we get it made. Because I'll at least, at the very least, I want this stuff to go to Rockville. But just to get it off the field, I may haul it back up to the buildings here and just loosely stack it on the concrete just to get it out of here. So, stay tuned for how we make out. Until next time, I'll talk to you later.